Good morning, you guys. Happy Epic Tuesday. Super excited to be here with everybody this morning. You guys are in for an hour-long treat. So I know we have a lot of KAMO fam on the line, but for those of you that are joining us as new members of the KAMO fam, I'm Allison Woodard. I'm the VP/GM of the market, best job in the world, best squad in the world. And we are going to have a great morning. So today, for those of you that this may be your first time, our Epic series is all about encouraging, promoting, and inspiring change for our diverse leaders, right? It is the epic of epic. Today, we have an awesome panel in the house. As you can see here, you got Jenny smiling so big. So Jenny is joining us, Director of Sales Operations. Jenny is over running sales ops for our in-home squad. So I hope we have a lot of in-home partners on the phone today. Then we've got Peter Pizzana. Welcome, Peter, from Biz Marketing. Peter is over there doing the Lord's work, bringing us the good deals so that we can get Biz Expert certified. So thank you, Peter. We appreciate you. Katie Walton. You guys know this name and this face, our Jonesboro store manager. She's been with AT&T about 5 years. You're going to hear more about her journey here in just a second. And Mark Blake with that big old smile, 5-time summit winner, currently running Pine Bluff. But that's not all, y'all. Jenny from the block, as she likes to be called. Big time kitchen, big time cook, big time chefaroo, always whipping something up. So maybe she'll tell us what her favorite thing to make is. Peter can often be found at concerts. How many, you ask? More than 300. The dude is a big time music lover. And I would like to know, Peter, you can just like chat it in if you'd like. I'd like to know what your first favorite concert. We'll do a little Ted Lasso there. All right, y'all, Katie's crazy. Not only did she get engaged skydiving, but she also went swimming with sharks on purpose. All right, so that is something that she's going to need to unpack. And Mark, we're just assuming it's Mark today because he has an identical brother that might be standing in for him. We'll find out. But at the helm is our very own Antoine Williams. Antoine, what up? Coming to us out of Alcoa. Antoine is going to be our MC today. So he's got a bunch of awesome questions teed up for this crew. Like I said, all about mentoring. I am glad Antoine took the tiniest break from the gym to join us. It sounds a little swolled this morning. It was probably just upper body day. All right. So Antoine, are you out there? Do we have you?
Good morning.
Woo! We got you, man. The floor is yours. Let's have some fun.
All right. Thanks, Allison, and good morning, KAMO family. So I'm excited to hear from our panelists and learn more about networking and building those mentoring relationships. So first, we'd love to start by learning a little bit about each panelist's background. Jennifer, we'll start with you. Tell us a little bit about how you got started in your career with AT&T.
Anton, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
You got me?
Yes.
All right. So I started quite some time ago when, believe it or not, I was in high school and I was a receptionist and I was answering the phones. I just walked in and asked if I can answer the phones when we didn't have any of the call centers and such. So that was quite some time ago. And then from there, I made my way up through the retail channel. And then AT&T was great at helping me get my degree. I did lean in on the tuition reimbursement piece of that. And then went and got my degree in computer science. Went into operations, and just from meeting people, and I know that hopefully we'll go ahead and touch on some of the things that AT&T offers, but through all of the programs and connections that I've been able to make, I was able to become where I am today, which is a director of operations. So love the company, and it's been a fantastic journey.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Next, we'll go to Peter. Peter, can you tell us a little bit about your career with AT&T?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, I'll just say thanks for everyone for being here. We're super excited to chat with you this morning. Similar journey as Jen. I've started off in retail. It was supposed to be a summer job. I had just graduated high school and I was ready to make some money, and it it started off as an SSR in retail, and then it just evolved from there, right? Somebody told me, hey, you make a good, you're a people person, so you should try sales. So I went to RSC, ASM, store manager, area manager, just eventually made my way up. I ended up getting me a mentor, and she connected me to a leader who was hiring for a sales ops role. So that was my first transition out of retail. And I supported South Texas from a sales operations perspective. And then an opportunity came available in Atlanta, supporting our national retailers. So I moved to Atlanta, loved that job, thought it was a great opportunity, met a ton of great people. And that just evolved my career. I wanted to come back to Texas, and I was able to come back to Dallas and eventually met people on the business side of the world and joined the business acquisition team supporting promotions. And from there, I ended up moving on to MoCAD's chief of staff team, which I think that was probably my best job that I've ever had. Great exposure, met a ton of people, made a ton of connections. And then that's what led to the role that I'm in now today, which is director of product marketing, who's my team and I support all of our promotions for business mobility.
Okay. All right, great. Next, we have Katie. Katie, tell us a little bit about your career with AT&T.
Hey, good morning, everybody. So my career path has been super interesting with AT&T. I actually joined through the college hire program. So after I got my degree, I joined the Business Leadership Development Program, which at the time was out of Atlanta. I think it has since moved to Texas. And there I learned about all things AT&T, wireline, wireless, and I met so many great people. From there, I actually moved over to the retail side. So I worked closely with the retail organization as a business rep, and it was always very interesting to, have to deal with customers every day, and they're right there in front of you. So been in the retail organization for about 3 years. I've been in 3 different markets. So Georgia, South Carolina, Mid-Atlantic, and now the KAMO FAMO. Absolutely love it here. Love being the Jonesboro store manager.
Okay. And last but certainly not least, we have Mr. Mark Blake. Tell us a little bit about your journey with AT&T.
Well, I started off at the call center about 15 years ago. I shooted up through the call center, left the call center, became a rep in the Pine Bluff store where I'm a manager at right now. I did at North Little Rock. I worked there about 8 years for being a sales rep, and I won 5 summits doing that. I did integrated solutions for about a year, and then I went to ASM in Little Rock and then went back to Pine Bluff as a store manager. So hey, I've been all over in retail.
Okay, so it sounds like we have a ton of experience on the panel, so we'd love to learn a little bit more. We'll start with Jennifer. You've led more than one mentor circle. In fact, I believe you're leading 3 at the current time. So what are a couple of topics that you believe are critical to discuss with your mentees?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. You're correct. I am leading 3 right now. And let me just go into the reasons as to why I'm doing it. As a mentor and as a mentee, you guys know that we do ask a lot of time, out of your regular daily work. And we know that we're all so busy right now. And I've been a mentee in groups before. And as a mentee, I've had such a great experience, and it helped me develop as an individual, not only in my career, but also personally. And because of that impact, I was just so passionate about giving back and becoming a mentor for other people. So all these other mentors, put so much into me. I just wanted to take the time out and also have that other impact for other people. So through these experiences, I've learned so much about the different organizations and about myself. And there's 2 things that as we go through, each of the mentor programs are so different, just depending upon the specific goals and priorities of the program. But one of the things that remains the same, and I make sure that we talk about, is networking. So networking, it is so important to build just that strong network. And, everybody comes from all these different roles and has all these experiences. But as you meet people, I found that it's important that you meet 3 different types of people. And you've all have probably heard this before, but for those who haven't, it's important that you find who your mentor is, your coach, and your sponsor. Throughout your journey, these people have different roles in your career and in your journey. And so you just have to identify those and just start having that conversation with them. And then this is one thing that's very important, is what is your career strategy? So you have to be very intentional with your efforts, right? So determine what your long-term goal is, and then all those short-term goals in order to get there and what's needed. So it could be simply as training, getting a nano degree, your different certifications. And this company, AT&T, is fantastic at supporting all of you and creating all of those opportunities for you to really instill that in yourself to get to the next role. And then through all of that, then you make the connections and then utilize their connections as well. So when you build that relationship with your network, then they have a network and you access their network. So you become bigger and your name gets out there so much quicker and stronger than you ever thought possible. Does that answer the question?
Absolutely. I don't know about you guys, but I'm certainly taking notes. So mentor, coach, and sponsor, that's something that I'll definitely keep with me, and that I'll definitely take that with me when I develop those relationships. So developing a strategy and being intentional are some things that I definitely would take away from that. So Peter, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, great answers, Jen. Those are 2 powerful takeaways. So just a couple of more to add to that. So I would say each connection that I come across is a stepping stone, right? And it kind of mirrors on what Jen said. Use your connection, your mentor, if you will, and use their connections, right? And be intentional when you're meeting with your mentor and really having a razor focused agenda, right? And what are you trying to get out of it, and stay true to that. And it varies from different stages of your career, right? You could be asking for personal advice, you could be asking for career advice. It just depends on, you could be asking for self advice, trying to improve yourself, direct feedback. So again, use every connection as a stepping stone. And then one thing that I've come to learn is you are always interviewing, right? Whatever you do in life, you are always interviewing, whether you think it's just a day-to-day meeting you, a customer, you are always interviewing, and they're going to remember how you spoke with them, how the interaction went, and just remember that they may call you tomorrow, a week, next week, and there may be a potential opportunity there for you that you probably didn't even realize it. So I would think those are the two big hitters for me.
Okay. So definitely know what you want to get out of the mentoring relationship, and always have an agenda, and keep in mind that you're interviewing with any mentor relationship.
Absolutely.
Okay. So Katie, you're currently in a mentoring circle with Rita Floyd. What was your biggest takeaway?
Yeah, I really love the structure that Rita applied to the concept of networking. And she used Harvard Business Review articles to help us look at how networking should be structured. So in this one particular article, it divided networking basically into 3 silos. So your operational, personal, and strategic type networking opportunities. So by doing that, it really allowed me to take a look at my network and identify, who has those relationships that I should be nurturing. More so than that, really identifying who I don't have a relationship with and who I should work to create, those relationships with. So the other thing that I learned, that it's important to get peer mentoring and peer networking, because those people will be the people that may be the hiring manager, or they may be able to connect you to the hiring manager. So, much like was said earlier, you should just, know that you're always interviewing, even with your peers.
Okay. So peer networking and peer mentor relationships are important to continue to build and look towards our left and our right, not necessarily vertical to where we can build those relationships with our peers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So Mark, Peter is your mentor. What was your biggest takeaway?
My biggest takeaway from Peter being my mentor was basically just putting yourself out there, basically letting the upper leadership know that you want to do a certain thing and basically get uncomfortable. And that what brings you results. When you're uncomfortable, you get your best results. And that's basically what I learned from Peter. Basically just putting yourself out there and letting other people know what you want to do.
Okay, so be vocal with your leadership, with your goals, and also getting yourself outside your comfort zone to get yourself in position to be where you want to be.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So in the audience, we have Nicole Arrogan. Can you share your takeaway?
Yeah, so just getting to know somebody from outside of retail was what was huge for me. There's so many jobs outside of our current roles, and having a mentor, it really just helps get your name out there and helps you find different paths that you can take within our company. I reach out to my mentor to ask questions, to get guidance on who I can go to for help or answers, or even just to say, hey, how's your day going, you know? But building that bond with them and actually keeping it, that's the biggest thing for me.
Okay. So continuing the relationships that you build and nurturing those relationships to get that mentor relationship continuously going is something that you took away from that. Okay. Jennifer, I believe both mentor and mentees benefit from mentoring sessions. What have you learned from your mentees?
Well, I really enjoy meeting everybody when we start having the sessions. And then a lot of them do one-on-ones with me afterwards, just so that they can have more of the time to specifically talk about their plan. And I find it so interesting how everybody's journey is so different. And then I really enjoy understanding their perspective of the business. Some of the things that I've gotten is as we start having those conversations, because they're so close to the field, they have great ideas. And sometimes they just need more of a platform to get their voice out there, right? And to really help operationalize and get the funding behind it and really get it to take off. So they have an idea and they don't really know what steps are needed to make that come to light. And so we've received so many of these great ideas and we've been able to implement them in our channel to really help not only them and the field out there, but the company as a whole. So I've learned so much about them and the groups that they've been in. And, you know, when you start taking people from different organizations and you just throw them in a think tank, fantastic things happen.
So basically with that mentee relationship, you get insight from a ground level perspective, which is a closer perspective to the actual field.
Yep, you got it.
All right. So Peter, I'll toss the same question to you. What are some benefits that you get from that mentee-mentor relationship?
Yeah, I think similar to what Jen said, right? A different perspective on, you know, a different outlook on how people think of the business, right? You coming from retail, there was some similarities and some common understanding between, you know, me and my mentees. It reminded me that there is a lot of good talent out there. I feel like I had a great group that really took the time to you know, to have a dialogue and a conversation between me and them, and then each other, right? There was a lot of back and forth between us. And then just really understanding that, you know, being a mentor or a mentee, right? You're taking time out of your personal day to, you know, try to help yourself, but also help others, right? And ensure that we all have a opportunity to do better and go wherever we want to go in, whether it's our career or in our life. And just make sure that, you know, you are transparent, you're honest, and you give, you know, direct feedback, and you really try to help, you know, whoever it is that's asking for advice, and you're, you know, giving them a good, you know, you're truthful with them and giving them the opportunity to grow their skill set and, really do a great job.
So being open, honest, transparent, and being able to give that feedback back and forth is a way you can foster that relationship and build that mentee-mentor relationship.
You got it.
Okay. So Katie, what advice would you give others that are considering getting a mentor?
Do it. Do it. Do it. It's one of the best decisions that I've made in my career. But, I've listed a couple of reasons why you should do it. One, it does expand your network and expose you to people that you may not have otherwise spoken with. But then your mentor also will give you candid feedback. And it's someone that's not necessarily in your chain of command. So they have a different outlook, a different perspective. That's one of the things that I love the most. And then I found that the best mentor-mentee relationship is the fact that you invest your time with them, they take time with you, and they really just pour into you, right? So they're there to nurture you. And it's a two-way street. But ultimately, I found that it's up to the mentee to make sure you nurture the relationship and you come prepared for that meeting. And I think Peter mentioned that earlier.
Great. So just do it. Don't hesitate. It definitely works to your advantage. And then also another mention of perspective. Being in a mentor relationship gives you a different perspective, different insight from someone that may not be in your necessarily same chain of command. So that's a great takeaway. And that's a two-way street, is give and take, and that both parties can benefit from that relationship. So Mark, same question. What advice would you give someone that's thinking about getting a mentor?
First, figure out what you want to do inside the company. Reach out to your manager, your area manager. We also have tools that we basically have to help you develop yourself, the management development program, Elevate, and the employee resource groups. Also, listen to their feedback and work on it. So when it becomes your chance to get into upper leadership or go to that next step, you can just outline what you worked on and what you learned from having a mentor.
Okay, so definitely you want to figure out what you want out of the relationship, what you want to do within the company, be intentional with that mentor relationship, and utilize the resources that we have with MDP, Elevate, and different employee resource groups. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So next we have Omar Delpret in the audience. Omar, what advice would you have for mentor-mentee relationships?
My advice would be for everyone out there is make time for yourself. Make yourself a priority, because we can get caught up so much in, the everyday work that we're doing that we fail to see, what we can accomplish. So enjoy this journey that you're going, because sometimes we get caught up with the end goal of what we want to do, but we need to enjoy the journey, because we'll meet people that will, teach us certain things, failures that we will succeed from, and challenges that will make us stronger. So enjoy the journey and make time for yourselves.
I agree. Definitely enjoy the journey and make time for ourselves. Sometimes we get caught up in retail with the day-to-day kind of rat race of taking care of other people and making sure that we develop our team, but we definitely have to take time to think about ourselves, consider ourselves, and enjoy the journey. So next, we'll take it to Peter. What would you say is the best way to go about getting a mentor?
Yeah, so I would say, so what worked best for me is, so every year, right, there's a handful of emails that come out from a charity benefit, right? And there's leaders out there that sign up and, you bid on an hour of mentorship with them. I'll tell you, when I was in retail, I did it, and it was the best $25 I had ever spent, because it got me my first leadership mentor, right? And that relationship just evolved. And I'll say the same mentor that I had, 15 years ago is still one that I talk to probably 3 or 4 times a day. And not only do I talk to her, I talk to her group, right? So I'm building off of her relationships. So take time, invest in yourself, right? It was, like I said, at the time it was $25, and I was able to help a charity and also get a mentor. And then second, I would say just ask, right? Simple enough, just ask. If there's somebody out there that you want to, you're in a meeting with them or a call with them and you think, oh, this person seems like, I would love to know more about them, and, maybe join their group or just, get some feedback from them, ask. Chances are they're going to say yes. And what I did is once I got my foot in the door and had that first conversation, my second question was, how do you think, what are your thoughts on having this, recurring every quarter, right? Or twice a year, and meeting with them and just continue that relationship. So sign up for some type of charity event, and then if not, just ask.
Okay. So invest in yourself. Just ask, don't be afraid to ask. And also what I took away from that is nurture that relationship. So to keep that going is, I think you mentioned it was 15 years, but that took, time and effort to make sure you nurture that relationship and keep it going. Jennifer, closes us out. What are your final thoughts that you want to leave with the audience?
So I'll echo what Omar and Peter said, that, like I said previously, we're also busy, but it's so important to make time for yourself to learn and to plan and to make those connections, even if it's an hour or two a month, and AT&T has so many programs. This one is a fantastic program, and Allison and team, thank you so much for asking me to be a part of it. It's been a payoff for me as well. And as Peter said, there's so many other opportunities, whether it be a charity opportunity or just simply asking, but there's also EG groups. If any of you have taken the time to really sign up for any of those EG groups, they do those multiple times a year, where they open up mentoring, and to be a mentee, to be a part of the group. Not only are you a part of that, you also then meet other people in various business organizations as well. So as we know, we've been talking about just expanding your network, right? And getting feedback from your peers, and getting a different perspective on the different challenges that you have at work every day, or even personally, right? And then I'm going to challenge all of you, be brave. Ask those questions. When you see somebody up there and they're talking on the panel, and there's a group afterwards that's surrounded by them and just asking them questions, it's just a simple question. Can I schedule time with you afterwards? I found everything that you said that really spoke to me. I found it very impactful. And I just really wanted to take the time out. And they're so great. And they're always like, yeah, sure, reach out to me. So, and then of course, this is a thing that is, you invested all of your time in building that relationship. And a lot of the time, the relationships fall off. So important to continually follow up. Peter gave a fantastic example of years later, he still is following up with his mentor and going to grab coffee. Hopefully when we all go back to the office, you can start doing that. But same thing, it is so important. And as time goes by so fast, I controls all of my meetings and everything. I put it in there as a reoccurring saying, hey, Jen, have you reached out to your mentor here? Ask to see if they can grab a cup of coffee with you, or even do a lunch and learn with you. So those are the things that I would like to leave you guys with. But again, thank you so much for the time. This has been great, and I've been having such a great time in the program.
Thanks so much for that feedback, Jennifer. I think a best practice I'll take from that is put it in my calendar, set a reminder to continue those relationships, to continue to nurture those relationships and keep that mentor-mentee relationship going. So thank you, panel and audience members, for sharing your experience. Next, we will have get some feedback from the KAMO family. There's going to be a text that you will send to of some impactful words that you took away from this. So you'll respond at pollev.com/KAMOTV114, or you can text KAMOTV114 to 2333 to join, and you'll see a word cloud with some words that you took away from this this session that were most impactful for you and what inspired you today. So as we get those responses, I'll give you the feedback.
Like a whole word cloud, Antoine? How do I
say? A whole word cloud.
Goodness. What will y'all think of next? Really great job, you guys. While we're waiting for the word cloud to build, I'm like trying to settle on a word. I find that difficult. But really, really good insights. I'll tell you some of my key takeaways. Is a lot of y'all hit on it, just about being intentional with what you're doing, and also like, give yourself a little grace. Not every person that you connect with or you think you want to connect with is going to be like your BFF mentor for life, right? So there are going to be some, like, I've got a really good example. I have someone who is now like a very high leader in our organization, like officer. And every one-on-one was worse than the last. Like, it was just awkward. And I finally was like, it's not a match. And I just sort of like let it go to the wayside. And we're still like super friendly and all that. But we just didn't mesh. So just be mindful of that too, that if it's more like work, and it stresses you out, cut bait. But I did love that about, being intentional, being disciplined about it. Don't wake up and realize 9 months later you haven't talked to this person or connected with them. Everything doesn't have to be formal, right? You don't have to like get time on calendars. Sometimes you just pop a text, share an article, tweet something and tag them, thought of you, Rita, or whoever. And then I loved bring an agenda. There's nothing worse than so what else is going on, right? And bonus points if you send the agenda ahead of time. So the mentor has a second to kind of think through things. All right, Antoine, word cloud building, check it.
Yes, we have brave, consistency, opportunity, calendar, mentee, communication, relationship, interviewing, bold, career, brave, time, networking. So those are all great words and words that we can take away from the conversations that we had with the panel. Now we will go to a Q&A where we'll have some audience members have some questions. So the first question that we have will be from Janelle. Janelle, you can come off mute. What question do you have for us?
Hello, everyone. My question is it okay to have more than one mentor going at the same time?
I'll take this one. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you most definitely want multiple mentors, the way Allison said, right? There may be one that you, there may be a mentor that you have that you speak with monthly, right? And then there may be a mentor that you speak with quarterly, yearly. But yes, you should always have a mentor. And when people think of mentors, right, they often think of leadership, right? I need an officer, I need a VP to mentor me. Sometimes they could be your peer. Sometimes they could be, somebody that's somebody else that you could potentially tap into. So think broadly amongst, your mentors.
Yeah, I think that was one of my biggest ahas from this was, yes, I do that every day. I mean, I speak to multiple other leaders, within our group, and, whether it's ASMs and RSMs, we're on calls constantly with each other, whether they're calling me for advice. And so whenever, that was said in the call earlier, I was like, oh, we do this daily already. So, yeah, I appreciate, that advice for sure.
Absolutely.
Okay, next question we have will be from Kevin Lamb. Kevin, you can unmute yourself.
Hey, thanks so much. And great job, everybody. So I think that I think Jennifer, you brought it up, you have the 3 different types of like mentoring relationships that you can have. So what advice do you have for moving from a mentorship to a sponsorship?
So Kevin, that's a great question. Thanks for asking that. It gives me the opportunity to talk a little bit more about the three different types of people in your career. So people can be more than one role as you get to know them. So, and a lot of the times it organically evolves as you start to get to know each other, and they start understanding your skill set. So it really is, as you start building that relationship with somebody, then you can start putting them into kind of that category. So to give you an example, I have a mentor who is my coach, and also my sponsor as well. So, you ask yourself, as you create these relationships, who's at the table saying your name? When opportunities come up, who's saying, Kevin would be a great fit for that role, right? But so it all happens really organically. And then of course, make sure that they know that that's who they are in your career path. There's nothing wrong with simply saying, hey, is it okay if I, have you, as a sponsor for me? And yeah, I mean, as you start building that relationship, it all just kind of blossoms and happens.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, next question we have will be from Dakota. You can go ahead and come up for you.
Hi, yes. So my question would be, people always say that always look for your next role and everything. And the big question I always have is, when do you feel like it's time to take that next jump and when it's not to?
I'll take this one because basically it's whenever you have that. Look at it this way: no one's going to come out and grab you and say, "Hey, I want this role. I want that role." You have to put yourself out there and say, "Hey, I'm applying for this role. I want this role," and show them why you want to get it. And basically speak to what you can bring to the position and go from there. And if you get it, you get it. If you don't, you don't. Ask for feedback and keep pushing until you get the role that you want.
Katie, do you have any feedback for that?
Yeah, I do. I would just say, be brave. So, I've been with the company like this time around, right? So 3 years. And within these 3 years, like I mentioned earlier, I've been in 3 different markets. So literally going from Georgia to Delaware to Maryland and now to Arkansas. And I didn't know anybody there. Like if somebody, sometimes people will tap you on the shoulder, right? And you just say yes, you just do it. Like you don't know what's behind door number 2, but if you just go and know that you have that belief in yourself and know that the person believed in you enough to ask you, just go get it and it'll work itself out.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you, guys.
So a question I have for the panel is, when it comes to a sponsor, mentor, coach, is it okay to ask the leader what they are to you if you aren't sure where you stand with them in those terms of mentor, sponsor, and coach?
The answer is yes. So at the beginning of this program, we had to fill out some homework and we had to identify who the mentor, who the sponsor is. And I wasn't quite sure. So again, I just called them. Hey, I just want to make sure this is who I think you are to me. Could you validate it for me? Just because I like to be really clear with people. And, surprisingly, those people are absolutely. And it was a couple of people that went even further to say, sure, you can put me down as a mentor, but understand I am your sponsor. And if you need something, reach out to me. And so sometimes the relationship may be further along than you actually think.
Hey, Antoine, can I comment on that as well?
Absolutely.
Hey, Katie, really good point. But here's what I would suggest to everybody is don't be afraid to ask the question, but also be prepared to receive what you're going to get from that individual. Because I had a situation one time where I was building my mentorship base, and I was going out there and I was talking to many people, and I had only had like 3 or 4 conversations with this one VP. And I was applying for this job, and I asked the VP specifically, I said, hey, can I get your blessing and can I get your, sponsorship for this position? Can you reach out to the person to put a good word in? And I was surprised at what I heard. I mean, she was very nice, but she told me, Chris, honestly, you and I have only had 3 or 4 conversations. I've heard a lot of really good things about you, but I don't feel like we're at a point now where I can put myself out there and say, hey, Chris is the best person for this job. So it kind of took me back for a second, but what I did realize is, hey, I appreciated her honesty. And now at this point, she's one of my biggest sponsors. I've kept that relationship alive. I've continued to talk to her, and I've known her for, about 1.5 years now. And she would vouch for me for any position. So just don't be afraid to ask the question, but then also listen to the feedback that the folks are going to give you and be receptive to that feedback.
Yes, I like that. That was great to get feedback and be receptive to that honest feedback. Allison, I would bounce that question to you. How do you feel about someone just being upfront about asking, where do I stand as far as a mentee, coach, sponsor?
So I kind of have a hot take on this. I think asking someone to mentor you, 1000%, do it. Any opportunity you have, nobody's going to say no. And if you're following in the chat, right, I said earlier, nobody's going to say no. And also if they do say no, probably wouldn't have been a good match anyway, right? So asking anybody to mentor, several mentors at a time, internal, external, all of it, peers, former bosses, whatever, all over the place. And as far as asking somebody to sponsor you, that one I'm not as crazy about. I love the way that Janke just teed that up, because I've had to have that conversation multiple times where someone's asking me to sponsor them and I'm like, bro, I don't know you. Or like, I've never worked with you. I can't vouch for you. And I think everybody can appreciate, like, you don't want to just put your stamp on anything because you don't want to dilute your own brand. That doesn't mean you're not an exceptional person. It just means I haven't experienced it yet, right? And I also love kind of the end of that story for Chris. They got the relationship there, but that's not the starting point. So I would say absolutely ask for mentorship. Sponsorship is something I think Jenny teed up earlier really nicely. That happens a little bit more organically, right? That's not, you don't ask for that. That's something that you earn. Is how I think about it.
Great. Jennifer, do you have any feedback with that?
No, I agree with all that is said. And one of the things as well is, when you're talking to somebody, especially during a job interview, and you're already asking, about the job and the connections and all that, at that point, it's a little too late. So, we're all talking about doing the pre-work and the, really understanding all the career, your career journey and all the work that you need to put into it. So as you start interviewing and you start, putting, so we're just going to go back to what we were talking about earlier in the conversation. The foundation of everything is just be very intentional, and then of course start the work before you start going into interviews, and then so that you have everything. As for those who know Dave Fine, who was a leader who just retired recently, he always used to say, make sure that your house is in order, right? So make sure you have all those people in place, make sure you have your education, your certification, And then most importantly, make sure that the results in your current job, right? You have to do well in your current job. So it's a hard sell if you're in an interview and you don't have your numbers where they need to be, or if you're running projects and the results of your projects aren't where they need to be, right? So do well in your current job, have those 3 people in place, get the certifications, training, education, all of that, and then everything will follow. Everything will be a nice, pretty house for you.
Great. So make sure you have your house in order and that you have the performance up to par to put yourself in that position.
You got it.
Got it. Okay. I have a question. It seems when the further you move up, you do move cross state. And I know, Katie, you mentioned you moved in 3 different markets. So how important is it to be mobile, to be able to get that those promotions and be able to you know, increase your visibility and get, you know, those promotions? But how important is it to be mobile, and is it something that can hold you back if you are? I'll open it up to anyone.
Yeah, I'll take that one. So I don't think if you're not mobile, that doesn't necessarily mean you won't get promoted or you won't get the job, right? It just means you are on a smaller scale, right? You're limited to what's available within your market, your area, your region. If you are mobile, like I said earlier, I had moved to Atlanta for a job and it was a promotion. I don't know if I would have gotten that promotion as quickly if I would have stayed in San Antonio, given the fact that there are, you know, limited a number of spots there. So long way of saying, yeah, if you know, ideally, if you are mobile, that's probably the better, there's a better chance that you would get promoted or the job that you want, given the fact that you're able to relocate. But yeah, if you're not able to, due to family situations or whatnot, don't feel like don't feel like you can't get the job or promoted within your area. It just means you got to fight a little harder and work a little harder.
Yeah, and I'll add to that too. You know, last year we were all going through COVID. There's a lot of learnings that we took away from that. We had to evolve as a company very quickly and utilize a lot of the things that we've put in place. So we were able to run the business with a lot of our support teams at home, you know, and that's not just in in-home experts, that's also in various organizations. So we were still able to run the business, in certain cases, even more successful than having us take the time in to drive into the office, right? And, you know, there tends to be some distractions in the office as well. But nonetheless, we were very successful in the transition. And as a company, we took away that, you know, this might be a good way for us to move forward. But so a lot of the roles have transitioned to non-office roles. I can't think of the word right now, but non-office roles. And as a result, it also allows us to tap into talent that we didn't have access to before because they weren't able to relocate. So that's the beauty. I know, you know, even with all the challenges that happened last year, and you know, we're at the tail end of it now. You know, there was great things that came out of the experience as well. So, you know, just to echo what Peter said, yeah, I mean, get your name out there, right? If you're the perfect candidate for it, and you're the strongest candidate, despite you know, if you have to be there or not, you know, there in certain instances they'll still make a way. But I'll be honest with you though, there are certain leaders and there are certain positions that do require you to be physically there. And with a company as big as ours, don't let that hinder you. I mean, just keep stepping up to the bat and keep on swinging, because something will open. You'll hit that home.
Great. I appreciate that feedback. Next question I'll toss to Thomas. I know in the initial Epic calls, you talked about something you're passionate about, which is PI, performance, image, and exposure. If you don't mind coming off mute and just talk to a second about how that ties into the networking aspect.
Sure, definitely. So that's something I'm very passionate about. So PI, performance, image, exposure. So I believe a couple of people already mentioned the piece about performance today. So I love the concept of having your house in order and having and just being ready when your opportunity comes up. So that's really what performance is. That's the ticket into the conversation. So if you're not on point with your current performance, you're not knocking it out the park. You're not executing left or right. You're not setting an example and helping your teammates to be successful. That's all a big part of that P. And again, that's the ticket into the conversation. And then image is always important. So, you know, what is your image? What are people saying about you when you're not in the room? What are leaders communicating to other leaders about you? So we got to make sure, we talk a lot about brand as well. What is your personal brand? And so that's a big piece of it as well. So it's not only, you know, how you look, it's how you carry yourself, your confidence, the impact you're having on other people. We talked a lot today about peer mentoring. That's a really big piece of it as well. You know, how are you positively impacting your team? Because again, we have a lot of folks out there. If you're currently a store manager, you want to be an RSM. It's like, are you being an RSM in your current role? Are you making an impact? Are you leading other RSMs? Are you sharing ideas? Are you helping move the needle for your current RSM? So those things are all very important. And then of course, exposure is also key. So we'll talk about a couple of things. One thing that hasn't been mentioned today is ERGs. So that's a great way, especially in retail. I know we get head down in the store, focused on doing our jobs. But ERGs are a great way to get that exposure. I know for me personally, again, I've been with the company 24 years. I'll be 50 years old this year. So I made a conscious decision to get engaged with Oxygen several years ago when I was back in Atlanta. And specifically for me, again, because I'm leading teams that are intergenerational. So it really helped me to better understand, you know, younger generations, what motivates them, how they tick, you know, and I could take that experience of being on the executive team for the Atlanta Oxygen, and then that's helped me with my career. And then now I know how to connect, even though I'm not going out buying all the latest Nike shoes, I can connect with folks that are, you know, all the people on my team that are shoe collectors. So simple things like that. It's not always about getting exposure up as well, but doing well in everything that you do. We talked a lot about sponsorship too. So PI, you're always constantly focusing in on PI makes a big difference. And again, you never know who's going to be your sponsor. Like I said, I recently found out there are people that I didn't even really know that well that are advocating on my behalf just because years ago I did well in a particular role, or we had a couple of instances where we communicated. So I love what that part about sponsorship, but PI, performance, image, and exposure is something we have to constantly, it's always a work in progress. We never arrive, but it's a good lens from which to evaluate kind of how well you're doing, not only in your performance, but continuing to expand your ability to impact others and grow your sphere of influence. So that's what I would say.
Thanks for that, Thomas. I know a big takeaway I have from that is utilizing the ERGs to get that exposure piece of the pie. So I appreciate that again. So next question we have is from Sean Caraway. If you can unmute yourself.
All right, awesome. Yeah, I entered my question in chat, and Allison gave me a great response and some resources to look at. But in general, my question was, heard some great things about the 3 types of leadership that you want to, can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, the 3 types of mentorship that you want to look for. And I was curious on, you know, is it appropriate to reach out to somebody in a channel or a leader that you have not met in person or ever had a conversation with? And Allison gave me some feedback on working through your network to make that connection. She gave me a resource of Kevin Bacon, appropriate to reach out to a leader for mentorship or that you've never actually come in contact with yourself. She says to work through your network. That's the best way to go about it.
Okay. Jennifer, Peter, do you have anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, right. Just because you don't know the person doesn't mean you can't go directly to them, but it's going to be challenging, right? If some random person is receiving an email that, they have no connection or interaction or have ever had an interaction with you in the past. Ideally, the best way is to use your connection and ask any of those folks if they know the person that you're trying to get in contact with and have a warm handoff, right? It would be much easier to say, hey, Jen, can you, I have a buddy named Josh Harris. Can you connect with him, chat with him? He'd love to learn more about what you do. Jen's more than likely going to say, absolutely, Josh, set up some time with me. So having that warm handoff is going to be a much easier and cleaner introduction.
Okay.
Awesome.
Thank you for that feedback.
Absolutely.
All right. So Jennifer, Peter, Katie, Mark, Ellison, thank you so much. I know personally I can take a lot away from this. I appreciate all the questions, great questions from the audience. Again, I am super thankful to be a part of this program. I generally take a lot away. So we will end it here, and I will leave it to Allison to close us out.
All right, thank you guys. Really awesome back and forth. I'm laughing because at about the 8:20 something mark, I thought, oh boy, we're gonna wrap early. Like, what is, and we did not. You guys had great questions, panel, really good insights. I personally wrote a lot down. I know this came up earlier, right? The mentor, mentee, who's learning more from who. Total two-way street, total two-way street. So love the plugs for ERGs. I will tell you without question, there's no way my career path would have done what it did or is doing had I not been active in ERGs. It was a total game changer for me. And, so take advantage of that. Don't look at something like Women of AT&T guys and be like, well, that's the Women of AT&T. It's not. It's for everyone. So look at what each of the ERGs, look what their, philanthropy, words. Look what their mission is. Look what they do. Do they do mentor circles? Are they more like community related? Like whatever floats your boat, right? And get involved. It's a great way to meet people. And you can be anywhere. Like they have nailed the virtual thing. So you can be anywhere. So get involved. But really good discussions today. I hope for any of you guys that are sitting there going, man, I don't have a mentor and this hit home. I need to get it in check. Work with your leadership team on that and get them to maybe help match you with somebody, right? Who would be a good fit for you. So talk to people, kind of get some ideas on, what would be the best person to have in your life that like you currently don't have that. Maybe, it's from a different business unit, or maybe it's somebody that'll just shoot you straight. Maybe it's somebody that looks nothing like you, right? And you need that perspective in your life. So just get a diverse mentor group. I call it my board of directors. So get your board of directors going and have fun with it, right? You want some direct feedback, of course. But like I said earlier, if it's a struggle every time you're chatting with someone, cut it loose, right? You don't need to put that much work into it, right? It should be natural. It should feel good. You should look forward to connecting with the person, okay? And then also, I don't care what your title is, you can be, and probably already are, a mentor yourself. So be mindful and intentional about those relationships too. I love the stat and I have no idea if it's a valid stat, but I love sharing it. I saw it on Twitter, that over the course of your life, average person impacts 80,000 people. That's a whole stadium, y'all. All right. Those are like the rock concerts Peter used to go to. So 80,000 people, you're already doing that, and make it a positive impact. Go positively impact 80,000 people. All right. Thank you guys for the time this morning. Another epic morning. Great conversations. Thank you, Jenny and Peter for crashing the KAMO party. Antoine, Katie, Mark, awesome job. Great to hear from all the leadership, and I appreciate y'all's engagement. Have an awesome day.